What if you're wrong? And what if that's not your fault? You see, you've been sold a lie. In fact, you've probably been sold a whole bill of lies. Lies about your leadership, lies about strategy, lies even about success and about authenticity and about certainty. I'm Karl Martin, and this is The Truth About. We're going to explore and expose some of these concepts, and we're going to get to the truth so that you might lead from a deeper place. This is the Arable Leader podcast. I'm Karl Martin, and my co-host again is Esther Martin, my daughter, the youngest of four, full of ideas, full of opinions.
Bursting with potential.
All of the above. And today we're going to talk about, what are we going to talk about today, Esther?
We're going to talk about the truth about certainty. So the world is on fire.
Right.
And I find myself trying to control anything I can.
Yeah.
And freaking out that I don't know that in 3 years' time, if, I'm even going to have a home to live in, like what is going on.
You'll have a home. We'll look after you.
Oh, thanks. Well, maybe you might not, there's nothing is certain in this world, and that's terrifying.
Well, the truth about certainty might start with certainty is overrated. Trying to control your situation is overrated, and it's a natural thing because the human brain hates uncertainty. In fact, it's wired against uncertainty. It would rather have known risks than things that it doesn't know. And so in a world where there is incredible uncertainty, yesterday's certainties have become today's insecurities, lack of certainty, the human brain really struggles with that, and it's always trying to compartmentalize threat and safety. At the end of the Cold War, the US Army College used to teach that the world was a VUCA place, VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And if it was true then...
It's definitely true now.
Well, it is, and one of my clients... describes it as a super VUCA world, and I always think of ABBA, then super VUCA, super pa VUCA, and is that not good, right?
That was just a lot. That was beautiful.
And so I always think that, and they talk about burning platforms and the world that has changed and how they're going to fix these things, and it is a lot. But I love the concept of the law of indirect effort. If you want to control something, don't try and control it. Mm-hmm. If you want certainty, don't go after certainty. Go after something else.
That sounds really lovely and easy, but how could you actually do that? Well, if you want that so badly?
Well, let's have a conversation about why it's important. The super VUCA thing is described in intellectual terms as a polycrisis. The World Economic Forum has called the world right now and as a polycrisis world, and that means basically different crises stacking up and compounding upon one another. And so, a supply chain issue might have come from an economic crisis, which might have come from an environmental crisis, which might have been influenced by a pandemic. And so these things all stack on top of one another and then become way bigger than the sum of their parts and aren't easily fixed by the same mechanisms that we fixed them in the past, and the world is on fire. That might sound incredibly dramatic, and you're never short of a dramatic statement, S. But, there are more people moving across the face of the earth right now than have ever moved across the face of the earth. 114 million people on the move right now across the planet. And how do you help those people who are, some of them fleeing war, some are refugees, some are just leaving for a better way of life? The environment is... The world is heating up. Mm-hmm. Whatever you think about environmental crisis, the world is heating up. 2024 was the hottest year ever on record on the planet, and what that looks like going forward, who knows? AI is a thing, massive thing. Mm-hmm. And it's going to change, latest estimates, about 40% of the jobs on the planet will be affected by AI. People will lose their jobs, there'll be new jobs created, but there'll be a massive movement in the job market. And all these things have compound effects, and people are trying to deal with it. And the brain wants certainty, and it can't have certainty. So we've got this massive crisis. So the truth about certainty, what if it's actually a blessing to be uncertain in a volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world, and controlling it is completely the wrong way to go?
I think that sounds great in theory, but I have like huge anxiety about my future and about not being able to control where I'm going to work, you know, my output. Like I can't control these things, and it gives me anxiety. And I think that's a big part of my generation's story, is a heightened level of anxiety.
Well, and maybe controlling the things you can control, influencing the things that you can influence, and accepting the things you have no power over is a good starting place. Because I think we often do the reverse. We try and control things we have absolutely no agency over at all, no power over, like the economy, the pandemic. We can't control what's going to happen to us. We can control how we respond to those things. And so perhaps beginning to understand that deciding to be intentionally out of control is actually a better posture than trying to control something you can't. It's fascinating to me that Donald Trump, let's go to Donald Trump, right?
We're going to go there.
Yeah.
Okay.
In 2016, when he was campaigning for the 2017 election, he campaigned on two significant slogans: "Make America Great Again," MAGA, and build a great wall. Build a wall, right?
Let's not do impressions.
Let's not do impressions. Okay. And build a great wall was about, I think he was basically playing into two very real human emotions that are part of this conversation. Security and significance. Build a wall, security. Make America Great Again, significance. And in this kind of VUCA polycrisis world, these things are really important to understand how they operate. I want to feel safe. Right. In a world where we had one crisis or singular crisis, it made absolute sense to make your nation safe. In a world where we were not as connected as we are right now, it made absolute sense to make your nation significant, because you were not connected to every other nation. You're the best nation in the world, right? And it still makes sense to human psyche, but perhaps the opposite is true. What if the way to handle uncertainty is to make yourself less significant and more insecure? Stay with the thought for a second. What if the way to handle the radical insecurity out there is not to button down and become really strong in and of yourself, but to surf it and go, there is insecurity, I'm going to handle that insecurity by intentionally stepping out of a comfort zone that doesn't actually exist and stepping into a growth zone or a disruption zone where I might grow, I might think, I might become better, I might become stronger, because under pressure I become stronger. What if intentionally stepping away from the small world of my comfort into a bigger world of discomfort is actually the very thing that's going to help you grow in this next season? I can't control whether I'm going to have a job next, so I'm going to become incredibly creative and incredibly resourceful. I can't control whether I'm going to own a house or not own a house, so I'm going to be really speculative and clever with my money and my resources. So you become someone who thrives under pressure because you step into insecurity and you surf it rather than stay in a comfort zone. What if insecurity is a better posture than security? Interesting, I think, anyway. And then what if insignificance is better than significance? What if deciding I'm not going to be the hero of my own story, I'm not going to be the main character in everything that I do. I'm going to make everyone else the main character. I'm going to not have main character energy. I'm going to give away that character to other people.
We've got to stop dressing this good if we don't want main character energy.
Main character energy is great. But actually, what if my job is to mentor and release and encourage everyone else around me, rather than making sure all my boundaries are set and I'm always in the right place myself? What if that actually makes me more stable in an insecure world? What if that enables me to be able to navigate volatility because I've got people around me who support me? What if I see myself as a part of a team rather than a rugged individual who's going to make all this stuff happen? So suddenly you see how a posture of insecurity and a posture of insignificance is way better for a VUCA or polycrisis world. And you begin to operate in a very different way, perhaps a much healthier way than my generation operated, where we weren't dealing with the compound effect of all these things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm not significant and I'm insecure. Love it.
Yeah, sort of. But what I'm saying is you gain your significance by becoming insignificant.
I get it.
You gain your security by becoming insecure, by trying to fight something you cannot win. By saying, I'm going to stay strong in a world where everything's shaking. That's not the way to stay strong.
Right.
The way is to shake with it, right? I'm going to be significant in a world of billions and billions of people, and I'm going to be no. You, honestly, get yourself the right way around. Your opinion is really important and not that important. Live in that reality,
right.
And then you become incredibly secure because you become centered and you become grounded. It becomes about other people. It becomes about something bigger than yourself.
Right. I'm so fascinated by this, like victim complex, victim mentality, especially in this world where things do seem to be happening that are scary, that interrupt. Like, look, I was at university when COVID happened, so I didn't get a normal university experience, and people always say that's really hard for you, and yeah. and I can see how I could really easily slip into this. Well, I've had a hard hand dealt to me, I didn't quite get what everyone else got, or and I think I see it in some of my peers, I see it in culture, I see it's like almost an excuse not to show up. Yep. It's like, this world is happening to me, I'm not happening to this world, sort of thing.
Yep.
And I guess my question is, how do we see the reality? Because me going to university during COVID did affect me. I'm not saying it didn't,
sure.
But also not allow that to become my story, my narrative.
Yeah.
I think it's a really dangerous, slippery slope that my generation is facing. So I guess, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think living in the yes and the rather than the no but world is much more healthy. Yeah, you didn't get a great hand dealt to you as far as university is concerned, but also you are living in a generation which has greater privileges than any other generation. You grew up in a country that has freedom and opportunity in a way that many countries don't have. You got you're one of the top 1% of the world financially, although you don't think you earn anything. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
So all these things are incredibly, so it's about flipping the script and flipping the narrative and going, what do I have rather than what do I not have? What are the possibilities? And also recognizing that every single one of us feels like we're out of control, and we have more agency than any of us want to believe. Because the moment you believe and understand that you have agency, you have an ability, and that you can flip the negative towards a positive, you now have accountability for that stuff. And that accountability is quite hard to deal with, because now it's not on everyone else, it's on you. And you can't just point the finger at everyone and say, well, I had a bad hand dealt with me. Well, everyone did. Go talk to someone who's born in the 17th century and had a life expectancy of like 40 years of age and
I think that'd be easy to find someone born in the 17th century.
Well, you think I was sometimes. But you know what I'm saying? Like that disease was a thing for everyone,
right,
that mortality was horrible, that it was hand to mouth, that and so the people that navigate uncertainty are people who take responsibility and who say, okay, it's shaking, I'm going to shake with it. it's uncertain and I feel insignificant. I'm not going to make myself the most significant person. I'm going to roll with the insignificance and see what comes out the other side. I think that's a very powerful conversation, and deals with the victimhood thing. It's never attractive to be the victim, even when you are, right? And sometimes people are victims of stuff. But the victims that actually thrive are the ones that go, okay, even in my darkest place, I have a little bit of agency here.
Yeah.
I can decide how I'm going to respond to what happened to me, which I know that's difficult to hear. But when it's a really hard thing, but I can still have some agency in how I view this thing. Let me talk about a guy called Nassim Taleb, who wrote a book called Anti-Fragility, which is a book that is just really hard to read. It's the kind of book you read one page and you have to read it 3 times to understand what he was saying. But he's a brilliant guy. His premise is brilliant. And he says, and it really plays into the uncertainty in our world right now. It's probably a very prophetic book, actually. And he talks about 3 kinds of systems in the world, 3 kinds of people, 3 kinds of organizations. He talks about robust people. He talks about fragile people, and he talks about anti-fragile people. And he says the fragile thing is like when we were cavemen and women, we were hunting all the time. We were hunted all the time. Life was very, very vulnerable. He talks about robust people, robust systems where things like the German economy or the Chinese army or something, there's millions and millions of them and it always operates in a certain way. And you have to put it under super pressure for it to be a real problem. But under the right pressure with the right kind of perfect storm, you can destroy those things. And then he talks about people and organizations that he would call anti-fragile. Systems or people that flourish under pressure. That if you persecute them or you put them under pressure, they grow. And he talks about bindweed. If you cut bindweed, it grows 3 or 4 different spores. He talks about the hydra in Greek mythology. If you cut off one head, it grows 3 heads, right? So he put it under pressure, and he would use things like the early church in that in Judeo-Christian thinking. Put it under pressure, it grows. Put it under pressure, it grows.
Right.
And I think when I'm talking about, no, I know, it's not I think. I know when I'm talking about thriving in uncertainty, becoming uncertain to thrive in uncertainty, I'm talking about becoming anti-fragile. I'm talking about learning how to prosper when you're persecuted, prosper when you're under pressure, prosper when you don't have certainty. And the only way I know to do it is to decide I'm not going to pursue my own significance. I'm going to find significance for other people. I'm not going to pursue my own security. I'm going to find insecurity, which will enable me to grow and flourish and prosper. So the truth about certainty is it's overrated. Don't try and be certain. Control the things you can control. Influence the things you can influence. Accept the things you have no power over. Find your agency. Embrace your agency. Take responsibility for what you can do. Respond, don't react, and become a person that thrives in this moment in time, in this cultural moment.
Okay, so how do I stop being anxious then? Is there anything practical that you can give me?
Yeah, I think firstly it starts with having grace for the moment and having grace for yourself. You're very likely to feel anxious, and that's okay. It's understandable. Everything's changing. It's volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. Your brain doesn't like it. It's going to be a challenge. Get the help you need. Ask the questions you need. Have grace for the timing of this moment. You don't have to be anxious. You will feel anxious. So how can I not be anxious? I think also understanding the anatomy of change, how change happens in society and in human beings is really helpful. So to understand that all change happens out of a result of disruption. So, you might disrupt yourself or the world might disrupt you, but change is happening because of that. And that always leads to disorientation. And that disorientation will one day lead to a reorientation. And that reorientation will probably lead to a better future, but it's going to be painful. And understanding how humans operate always in that is going to be helpful, I think. Understanding that you're going to experience loss. Don't Don't deny it, and that's going to lead to fear. And that's understandable and okay, and have grace for it, and walk slowly through it. Because denying the fact that it's loss and fear will only bury it under the surface for it to come up in ways that you can't control. It will, in fact, it will control your life. That's where you become anxious all the time. And understanding that the reorientation piece that you're going to get to at some stage will bring peace to you.
Right.
And that
So I've got something to look forward to.
Well, and I can't give you peace. I can't give you peace. I can't tell you it's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. The world always operates like that. It's cyclical. You know, I can't. That doesn't give you peace. Mm-hmm. That just makes you question more whether I'm a charlatan, whether I know what I'm talking about.
Charlatan.
It's a good word, right? But peace is something you can only come to yourself, and you will get there.
Yeah. Because
you know from your experience of life up to this point that there comes a moment when suddenly it feels all right, even if the circumstances haven't changed. You know, my dad dies, your grandfather dies. I think the world will never be the same again. I feel loss, I feel pain, I feel fear. And then one morning I just wake up and I go, do you know what? I think it's going to be okay. I don't know rhyme or reason why it was that morning, but I just think it's going to be okay, and I have peace about it. You telling me to have peace because it's going to be okay doesn't help me. I have to come to it myself.
Right.
And then that peace eventually becomes hope for a better future. But understanding the anatomy of that change dynamic is super helpful to know that actually it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. We're going to not just survive this, but I might thrive through this. Will help you become anti-fragile, will help you become really centered and grow, will help you feel anxious but not be anxious, and will help you with that whole concept of accepting insecurity, maybe even stepping into it, and accepting insignificance, maybe even stepping into that and building something which actually becomes a more robust support system in these moments.
I think that there are lots of examples of that in my life. And when I look back at it now, I can see, oh my gosh, yeah, like I felt hopeless. I was, when I worked in a coffee shop when I was 21, moved to London, couldn't pay my rent, was living to work, working to live, was stuck in that cycle, really unhappy. I was super depressed. Like, it was horrible. And I couldn't see a way out of it. But now I look back and I did get out of it, and I'm so happy now. And I can see where I could have had hope, and, faith is restored, and I'm okay. But actually, when I was in that space, I couldn't see a light at the end of the tunnel. I couldn't see hope.
Yes.
So if anyone is listening to this and they're like, I feel hopeless, like I don't know how to get out of my situation, what would you say to that, where actually I can't see hope in this situation at all? Well,
I think get help, talk to someone is really helpful. And to understand, I mean, this could easily be a little bit of a rant on isolationism and individualism. I hope it isn't going to be, but the idea about shutting down your boundaries and your borders and focusing in wholly on yourself is actually the complete opposite of the way to handle that kind of situation. Find people who are outside of you, who can help speak into you, who can journey with you around that change process, who can sit with you in the loss, who can commiserate with you in the fear, and can enable you to get to peace yourself. That's how it works. It works in community. It works with people who can listen to you and help you reframe the perspective, because the truth is very difficult to see. And the challenge is the really difficult challenge is this, that what you're predisposed to want to do when you're depressed or down or struggling with a situation that you can't control and wanting control that you can't have, is to stick within your comfort zone and say, I know this is the way, rinse and repeat, do these things, I can survive. The only way to actually survive is to step out of that comfort zone. It doesn't work. You can't rinse and repeat the same things and expect to get different results, right? You're going to get the same result, and it's going to become the law of diminishing returns. It's going to become worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
So your ability to find someone that helps you step out into what I would call a disruption zone, to ask questions, to make a move, to do something that you haven't got the capacity for right now, but to recognize that in the uncertainty, to step into more uncertainty is the way to go, to find ways to speculate, to find ways to grow, to make space for something that isn't there yet. That's the only hope in this. And the problem is that most people can't do that on their own, which is why therapists, coaches, friends, community, groups are so vital in that stuff.
Yeah.
Because your brain will lie to you. And your brain will tell you that the way to handle the uncertainty is to button down the hatches, secure your borders, look after only yourself, become an island unto yourself. And what will happen there is you'll become more and more myopic, more and more depressed, and more stuck. You have to break out. The way to break out is to get help. And the way to get help is to ask.
Yeah. I think a big part of that is community. I think it's so important to have people that, can challenge you, can do life with you, and can see you in that. I think that's probably one of the biggest pieces in this.
Yeah.
The individualism stuff is scary, because it does feel like we are so told that. We're so told that we are an island, that we have this thing that we have got to do. We've got to become successful. It just feels like we're very anti-community, but my experience of life is that's the only thing that helped me through those times, was having people that love me, that check in on me, that that challenged me. So I think community is kind of everything.
Yeah. And to bookend this in a helpful way, to make it macro again, and to say, the VUCA, super VUCA world that we're living in, and the geopolitical world that we live in, and the connection between nations and continents that we have right now, and the exchange of information, and how connected we are, and the polycrisis, or the permacrisis, however you want to describe it, it seems rational and understandable that nations and individuals and governments and leaders will want to operate in a selfish way to create comfort zones, to create individualistic individual policies. But these permacrises, these polycrises, cannot be solved and fixed by an individual nation. And the selfishness of individual nations, and we all do it, right? Everyone points the finger at everyone else, but the selfishness of that is not going to fix any of this stuff, because we're so interrelated. It's the community aspect. It's the we need help. The climate stuff isn't going to get fixed by one person or one organization operating independently. The supply chain thing isn't going to get fixed by one organization going, we'll look after our rare earths. The economic thing doesn't get fixed by, it gets fixed by people talking to one another and recognizing they're not islands unto themselves. They're part of a species that is in crisis right now, and that the crisis actually we have agency to fix it. And so the truth about certainty is, don't pursue individual certainty. Pursue corporate uncertainty, and begin to look at the world in a different way.
And we all just need to work together.
Well, it can sound Pollyanna, but I think it's true. So I hope you've appreciated our conversation around certainty and uncertainty. I'm sure you'll have opinions. Please put your opinions in the chat. Please have a conversation with us. But more important than that, please find people you can talk about the uncertainty in your life and in your world, because asking questions and reaching out is going to be the only hope you have to find the agency that you have to be able to stand when everything feels like it's falling around you.